Hello, I'm Charlene. Thanks for joining us on Stay Up on Upson. And today we are talking to Miss Mary Bryan Weaver Arnold, who's here with us at the Glenwood Cemetery. And she has relatives here in this cemetery, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the history and some of the people that are buried here. Miss Arnold?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I came to talk to you and to share with you the knowledge that I have acquired in all these 96 years about a place of historical and genealogical interest, Glenwood Cemetery, the oldest cemetery in the city of Thomaston. Precious memories of the people that I have known along the way and who've made an everlasting impact on my life. Loved ones, friends, even people that I never met personally. But it's so thrilling to me that our Daughters of the American Revolution Regent, Miss Sandra Cadle, a student of history and genealogy, saw the need for the preservation of Glenwood, and she appointed a cemetery committee to oversee the restoration in order to preserve the history and the heritage that is here in this old cemetery, so that all can appropriate this knowledge. Ms. Carrie Adamson, who is active in the Augusta Genealogical Society, of which I've been a long-time member and spoke with her yesterday, is a teacher of genealogy and a cemetery guide of renown in the South. She grew up in Pennsylvania, in a little town that was similar to Thomaston, and where her parents and grandparents took walks through the cemetery often and took the children, sometimes even bringing a lunch to enjoy at their lot and at their plots on the green. And they sat and told stories, the older people would, and to the children, which enthralled the children, and it whetted their appetite for more, just as we did when I was growing up. That's what we did. And I quote her as she says, "I have always felt that cemeteries are a good reflection of the cultural attitudes of a community. They show religious values, tastes in architecture, and by the way a cemetery is kept, how local history is respected." She says the decorative art on tombstones are the silent, secret longings of our ancestors. That sounds good, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
The monument makers at the turn of the century sent representatives out to sell tombstones with catalogs of the style of decorative art. And people ordered from those catalogs just like they ordered their furniture. That was in the 1700s even. And symbols to them meant different things at different times. So that's true here, as you can see, because many beautiful iron fences and railings were removed in a certain era of the town. In Glenwood lie the founding fathers who loved this land and gave unselfishly of their time, their talents, and their possessions. They had a lot to overcome, but they had stickability, and the town grew. They were pioneers and patriots, men and women who served in various capacities in the churches, and at that time there was only the Methodist and the Baptist churches. The churches came in as the town grew. And in the schools as trustees and teachers, and as builders and lawmen and senators, doctors, lawyers, on city and county councils, and as pharmacists and organizers of the Masonic Order, the later of the Red Cross, the DAR, the UDC, and all kinds of organizations and occupations that are required to keep a village on the move. There were so many volunteers, too, to help in firefighting and keeping the laws and caring for the sick and the helpless. They had a great sense of community. I remember how much we young people enjoyed visiting each other at our churches, and just to enjoy the things that they were having, at the Methodist Church or the Baptist Church. Now, if I could walk the walk, there are little stories of people in various areas of life that I would enjoy sharing. But we'll take it slowly today.
Okay.
It is so important to know our roots, don't you think so?
I absolutely think
And
so.
to be grateful to those who made all of this possible, to write it all down for generations to come, and all of us can do that. The stage has been set by the John Huston chapter DAR, and we should show our gratitude by offering to help in whatever way we can. There are so many true stories that would interest our grandchildren and great-grandchildren and on and on. When I was a child, a special day was Memorial Day. And from the time I was in the first grade, we all wore white dresses and the boys wore white shirts. And we would all dress, and after a fine speech at Lee, and the singing of all the old songs, we marched, each with a bouquet of white flowers that had been gathered by different people in the community. And we placed them on every soldier's grave. The bugle was sounded in the cemetery, and there was such a stillness up here. The cemetery was so clean because each family had pulled all the weeds and had swept it. It was a proud day, and the crosses over to our left of the soldiers of the Confederacy, row on row, showed the care that Thomaston had for its beloved dead. Now, I'd like to tell you about a few people, because that's what this is all about. Mr. Bob, R.E. Hightower Sr., was a good friend of ours. He organized and was elected the first president of the Thomaston Cotton Mills, which grew and prospered and was operated for over 100 years, closing in the year 2001, I believe, wasn't it? He is buried in the Hightower lot across the road. My mentor and friend and teacher and my beloved grandfather was George Weaver Arnold Sr., who is buried on the site of the First Methodist Church. He was a pillar of the church all of his life, as was his father, Judge T.A.D. Weaver. He's buried over to the east. He was the first, George Weaver was the first elected mayor of Thomaston, and he had volunteered and served in the war. When he was, of course, he had married, and at 31 he was elected chairman of the Board of Trustees of R.E. Lee Institute and served there for many years. He believed in education for all. He married Martha Fluellen Drake, and they had 7 children. 5 are buried up in the Weaver lot, and each one has a story to tell, but that will have to come later. I've been asked to mention the zinc obelisk. Its beauty unmistakable. It marks the grave of a beautiful Christian lady, the wife of General George P. Harrison, the daughter of Dr. Drake, a Wesleyan graduate, and mother of Mary, a prominent singer from Opelika, buried at her side. In that lot, and I'll tell you this, is also Dr. Drake's little 4-year-old daughter, Sybil. He could not bear to place her body in the cold, cold ground. And so he himself built a vault for her out of brick. And that was the first vault built in the Thomaston Cemetery. In that same lot is buried Nicholas, one of his sons, who served in the with his 3 brothers in Virginia, and he was killed. But they were all volunteers of the CSA Army. William Caraway is the only Revolutionary soldier buried in Thomaston. And I remember all of the Caraways. It is my aim to continue to add to the work which I've done concerning the people of Glenwood. There are so many stories that could be told and so many people to remember. You know how that would be in all these years. Juliet Weaver and Miss Benny Thompson in about 1918, 17 or 18, when the beginning of the World War I, they formed the Red Cross here in Thomaston, and of course it's grown through the years, and now they have a fine leader of the Red Cross that does so much for the whole world.
You want to take a break?
When I was 9 years old, Frederick Finger Rao Jr., a little 2-year-old, and a neighbor of ours developed blood poisoning from a foot injury. And the whole neighborhood was devastated when he died. A beautiful angel down south of us can be seen in the Middlebrooks Rye lot as a memorial to little Frederick. He was the son of the superintendent of schools, F.F. Rye, and his wife, Linda Middlebrooks Rye. I walked to school with Professor Rye, and we talked as he kept time with the morning paper that he had picked up, and he would pat it on his thigh, and it was it meant, come on, we've got to hurry to school this morning. He was such a fine man, and the little family was missed so much, and he, as the marvelous superintendent that he was especially missed. But he moved to LaGrange, Georgia, and became the superintendent of schools there.
Wait. Do you want to take a little break? Do you want a drink? Mm-hmm.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Thanks for joining us again on Stay Up on Upson. And we're here, and we're going to continue our talk with Miss Mary Bryan Weaver Arnold, and she's going to tell us some more about the history of Thomaston and the Glenwood Cemetery. Miss Arnold, you want to talk some more to us now?
Well, I thought we'd talk about a few more people.
Okay.
Behind the iron railing that you see there is Dr. Blaylock's lot. And I thought I'd just tell you something that was of interest to me.
Okay.
Because he had a son, John, and he was the pumper for the organ here at the Old Methodist Church. And he did it for a long time. He loved it. It was an honor for him to do it. And he was faithful to the very end. And everybody liked John. He was ready to pump that organ at any moment. And then before I tell you about Captain Cotton, his grave is just behind the obelisk that you see in the distance. He was a fine lawyer, and he enlisted in the army when he became and where he became a captain. He was on the board of trustees of R&D Institute, was a senator, I believe, at one time, and was president of the A&B Railroad. Very active in civic activities. He was, let's see, G.A. Weaver Jr. was the last president of the A&B Railroad, because they went into bankruptcy or something. And he owned a mule stable. At that time, you know, that was such a promising thing to do. Right. And he was a state senator and bought and sold real estate. That was his forte. Then there was Dr. Edward Flewellen, whose monument we can see from here, was the medical director and inspector of hospitals during the Civil War. His bride-to-be, a nurse, died, and he never married. He moved back to Thomaston and lived out at the Rock at the Flewellen place. Then I remember when the cemetery had to be locked, and was locked. Every night at 6 o'clock, Leon Smith's father, Leon wrote for the Thomaston Times, and his father lived over on Mallory Street, and he was the keeper of the keys. So he locked this cemetery at 6 o'clock and got up in the morning and opened the cemetery again. If you got caught in here, it was too bad. That happened to me one time, but I did go down to the fence, called him, and he came and opened the door and let me out. Glenwood is a beautiful resting place where you can see the wholeness of humanity. It is a home away from home. See what I mean?
I see what you mean.
I have not mentioned my beloved husband. The things he did were done because he loved Thomaston and Upson County, and he wanted the best for all its citizens. He served for 20 years as county commissioner, and then for 6 years on the city council. Then he had given 30 dedicated years as treasurer of the Methodist Church. Hayes is buried in our lot at the entrance, just right up here, that little small lot, where I will be interred. I do thank you for letting me come and share all of these wonderful thoughts that came of all the wonderful people. There are many, many other stories. God bless you all.
Well, God bless you, and thank you so much for being here with us. And maybe another fine day we can come out here and talk some more. Would you do that?
I would enjoy it.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be back after these messages.
Hayes Arnold Sr.
But as you know, that Patricia's much better speaker than I am. She's good on it.
You just rolled it right off. You were so glad.
I got so excited. It's not really opportunity.